everyone, my name is ShaineRiley and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know I've been off for a few weeks, but I'm back now. There's some family issues going on, but hopefully everything's better now and I want to get back on track with my filming schedule. In today's video, I want to do a new series kind of challenge on my channel. I do want to do other challenges in 2025, and luckily for me, my job, I'm usually in the store for 2 to 3 hours without customers being there. I'm a visual merchandiser, so I do have a lot of time in the morning to just listen to audiobooks. I feel like I'm going to get a lot more books done this year because my goal is 125 books, and if I just listen to 4 books a month times 12, that is 48 books a year just that are audiobooks. So if I listen to all those while I'm working, that means that all the books that I'm reading at home aren't counting towards that. So I really do think I am going to reach my goal for 125 books. I did read 54 books last year. Some of them were novellas. A few of them were actually audiobooks, but I'm like, you know what, if I manage my time correctly and I just listen to audiobooks at work, that means the rest of the day all I'm doing is reading. I do have 3 books in this video that I'm going to be talking about. They're all fantasy, which I've been in a very big fantasy mood. I've talked about that in multiple videos now. I just can't get enough of it. And then another app that I downloaded, it's called Everand. I heard of Everand through my sister. This is not sponsored by them. And you get 3 audiobooks a month for $16.99. I know that may seem like a lot to some people, but because I want to feel as productive at work as possible, I think I'm happy with that. I canceled Apple, so I only have 2 subscriptions. I do not have Apple anymore, which I think is fine. So now that that's done, talked about my goal for this year. I talked about the little calculations I did. So that's 48 books a year. Every single month I am going to be filming one video that's just about audiobooks. So you guys will see this as a consistent series, a part of my channel. I think I read Fourth Wing about a year ago because I remember it was when we moved into our new apartment, and then I didn't want to read Iron Flame because I'm a mood reader and I jump around from books so much, and also I was like, well, I know that there's another one supposed to be coming out, so I don't want to read the second one and also get left on a cliffhanger and then have to wait a long time. Obviously Onyx Storm released this year and I wanted to get caught up on the series because I do want to read Onyx Storm because she does have 2 other books in the series that are going to come out. She has not started writing them yet. She knows the plot of them. I realized this year I just really want to get caught up on all my series, so I was like, you know what, Shane, it's fine if you get left on a cliffhanger. I want to stop avoiding spoilers on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. So I'm like, you know what, just get caught up on the series and then you can read Onyx Storm when it releases and you'll be okay. So I did listen to Iron Flame. I will say I rated this one a 4. I do genuinely really like dragons. I like the fantasy. I love the world. I did give Fourth Wing, I believe I rated it a 5. I really enjoyed the first book. I just think the world building and getting introduced to all the students and the school and the dragons, I really did enjoy it. This one I rated a 4. The only reason why I think I rated it a 4 and not a 5 is because Violet and Xaden were fighting so much in this book, going back and forth, which is fine. Going back and forth, banter, arguments, third act breakups, whatever, we're used to that. But I just think it was happening so much that it kind of was like, okay guys, like, you know, and I understand why they were fighting. I don't think this book really has second book syndrome, like it's just like a placeholder. I do think it was enjoyable. I cannot wait to read Onyx Storm. I definitely do have that for my TBR next month. The second book that I listened to this month, it is Lightlark. I will say I rated this a 3.5. Now that is not to say that this book wasn't enjoyable. You have main character and she's actually a wildling, which when I was listening to the audiobook of it, it sounded kind of cute, like the way that the voice actress would pronounce it, but they are not very cute. I mean, the character, she's a very beautiful woman, but in this series you have 6 different realms fighting every 100 years to try to lift their curse that was brought to them upon this like island that they're on. There is a love triangle, which I'm not someone who likes love triangles, but because I felt like this was a very simplistic story and it's very intriguing and there wasn't a lot of like, what's the word I'm looking for? It just didn't seem as crazy to me. I think it seemed downplayed, the type of situations they were in, and I don't know if that's because I was listening to it in audiobook version and the way that the voice actress was speaking. She does have a very light and airy and bubbly voice, so to me it didn't seem like It didn't seem high stakes. I think that's just a simple one-word answer to how this book made me feel, but sometimes you need fantasies that are like that. That's why it was enjoyable to me, because it's a very intriguing story. It just didn't seem super dark, high stakes, I'm gonna start crying for these characters, which I do like, because again, not every single fantasy, not every single book needs to be super heartbreaking and you're crying and you're upset at the characters. Like, I just think that this was an enjoyable, fast-paced story, and I do want to continue it. In the very first part of the book, you know how there's usually like a world map? We don't get that, but we do get a breakdown of all the different types of groups of people and their curses and what they are. So our main character, she's a wildling, which the way that the voice actress would pronounce it, it sounded really cute and like, I don't know, it's just a wildling. Vibes she gives off our main character. She's just a very sweet person. And, or she's not a person. She has a curse, and it makes a lot of people scared of her. And her curse is she must eat human hearts to survive and kill anyone they fall in love with. And then her powers are control of nature and affinity with animals. When you think of a wildling, to me the best way to describe it was they were basically mermaids, but land mermaids. Or sirens, I should say. They can sing, they're very beautiful, they're naturally like seductive, like people are just drawn to them. She wants to come to this competition being very graceful and showing people, yes, I'm a wildling, but there's so much more to me. I'm not just some vicious killer. So from the bat, you can really tell that this character is super sweet. She's just, I just, like, that's basically the best way to describe her. She was just very sweet and kind and caring, but people are scared of her because they're like, we know what you are, we know what you do, and anyone that falls in love with them, their curse is that they kill them. So that's actually happened to her parents. Her father killed her mother. She is going into this competition. She wants to win. She wants to prove that wildlings aren't just some crazy weird creatures like hunting people. There are 6 other types of creatures, I guess you can call them. So one of the love interests, which I'm kind of leaning towards, but like the way that the book ended, like I don't really know who to trust at this point. His name is Grimm, and he's actually a part of the Nightshade, and their curse is will perish outside after nightfall, which basically just sounds crazy. Their powers are ability to turn invisible and read emotions. Stronger individuals may be capable of mind control, shadow wielding, and spinning curses. So this man is powerful, okay? But I feel like, in a weird way, I feel like we didn't really get too much of him in this book. Like, the minor Poppins is why I was gravitated towards him and wanted her to kind of choose him because it's a love triangle. But again, we didn't really get too many crazy things, I feel like, between these two characters. Like, it's a building story between this love triangle. And then you have Oro, which is the ruler of the Sunlings. That sounds really weird to say. When you think about Sunling and their community, their curse is will burn in the sunlight, and their powers are control of fire, light, and heat. Mr. Oro here, he is trapped in a castle basically forever, and his abilities are endless because he is the king of Lightlark. So he's a little bit different, okay? Lightlark is an island that shows up every 100 years, and all of these different groups, they need to try to fight to uplift their curse, and that hasn't happened yet. There's a few challenges in this book that you come across and you're kind of like, oh, how's that gonna happen? How's this gonna work? But for me, I was really rooting for Grimm. I do think that I just gravitate towards his character because he's really cool. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, he kind of was like in the distance or like in the shadows, and you kind of were like, what's that man doing? I do think that this story was very interesting. I do think that the characters are intriguing, but I do want to continue to read to understand where it's going, because I do feel like this book was a very easy fantasy, but it wasn't super high stakes. I know some people are like, what are you talking about? Like, these people are fighting to uplift their curses, and a lot of their curses are obviously bad. Like, it's not like happy fun stuff. So it just, I don't know, it seemed a little bit more light-hearted and very magical and fluffy. The type of artwork that I would see on Pinterest, it did reflect that. So I do think this book was great, but for me it's sitting at a 3.5, which I do think is a very good rating. The last audiobook that I listened to this month was The Game's God's Play, and this wasn't bad at all. I rated this a 3. It just wasn't like super interesting because it's something that I've heard before. It wasn't like any new information. The reasoning for why she was cursed was so bizarre. The reason why I rated a 3 was because it was still interesting. Like, the story, the characters, like how everything was going, the trials were interesting, but The reason why the main character was cursed, I do think, like when you think about Zeus, he's a player, he's nasty, he's gross, okay? I do think that maybe the reasoning for why she was cursed could have been a better reasoning. The way that the underworld is described was very beautiful. It does really give Divergent vibes. You have main character, she works for this group where you pay off debt. You work with them to, I guess, either like con people or they're like hitmen. I forget exactly what they do, but they're a group and you have to work for them to pay off debt. Her family, her mom and her dad were actually in debt, so they kind of gave her to this group at a very young age, and she already had paid off her debt. Or their debt, I guess you could say. But they had passed, so she has no one to go to, and she just stays within this group. Every single few years or every single year, they have these trials, and all the gods pick someone to compete for them within these trials, and she gets picked. She's very smart. I feel like she's very fair. That is one thing at first when the book was starting. I was like, girl, why are you helping other people? Like, just save yourself. But then as, you know, you progress in the trials, you realize that no one technically has to die. Like, you can very much help people, but if they themselves fail at the trial, like, there can be consequences, like they get severely hurt, or they can die. So, the more and more I kept listening, it was intriguing, but again, because I think it was just very repetitive. Hades is just a god that everyone fears. He doesn't really like anyone, he's not very nice, but he has a soft spot for our main character. And I do think that was intriguing, but because I'm gonna keep repeating myself, it wasn't anything that I haven't heard before. It was kind of like, it's interesting. I would like to read the second one or preferably listen to it, but it wasn't my favorite. Definitely liked Lightlark a little bit more than this. That is it for the 3 books that I listened to this month. I am very excited to continue this series on my channel. These ones have been on my shelves for a while, so I'm glad to get them crossed off. I'm glad that I can now add them to my little, what is it called? So my camera overheated, but we are back. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. This is definitely something that I'm going to do every single month, so I'm going to make it a little series, a part of my channel. And if you have any recommendations for audiobooks that you guys enjoyed, please let me know in the comment section. I would love to listen. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.